Chosen one, why does your heart race when no one is chasing you? Why do you wake at 3 a.m. with tears on your pillow, calling out to a God who seems to have forgotten your zip code? Why has every door you've knocked on slammed shut just as your fingers touched the handle? Stop, right there. Stop wondering if you've been abandoned, because while you've been crying in the darkness, thinking you failed some cosmic test, heaven has been watching, recording, measuring, and 3 minutes ago, the verdict was rendered in the courts of eternity. You passed. The angels have grown still, not in mourning and awe. The battlefield of your life has gone quiet, not because the war is over, but because the victory has been declared. You are no longer under trial, chosen one. You are under protection. If this message found you, if your finger somehow landed on these words, in the endless scroll of digital noise, it is not chance. It is heaven's GPS guiding you to your divine confirmation. You survived what was designed to destroy you. You endured what was engineered to eliminate you, the storm that roared for decades, trying to uproot every foundation you built. You're still standing. Scarred? Yes. Shaken? Absolutely. But broken? Never. Listen to me carefully, dear soul. That depression that followed you like a shadow, that wasn't punishment, it was purification. Those prayers that seemed to bounce off a brass heaven, they were being collected in golden bowls before the throne. Every tear you cried when no one was watching, heaven counted them all. You thought you were failing the test, but you were passing it. Before we journey deeper into this sacred revelation together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let heaven's confirmation flow through your fingertips. But right now, this very moment, if you feel something stirring in your chest, if something ancient is awakening in your spirit, if you know beyond knowing that this word was written for you, type "I have passed" in the comments right now. Don't hesitate, don't analyze. Let the heavens see your declaration. Let the angels witness your agreement with what God has already decreed over your life. The test is over, chosen one. The promotion has begun, and what happens next will leave you breathless. How many nights have you laid in that empty bed, staring at the ceiling, wondering if God packed up and moved to a different neighborhood? How many times have you dialed heaven's number only to get a busy signal that's lasted 20 years? How many mornings have you whispered, "Why me, Lord?" into your coffee cup, knowing the only answer you'll get is the echo of your own broken voice? Dear chosen one, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That crushing silence that followed you through your 60s, your 70s, maybe even into your 80s. The silence that came after you buried your spouse of 47 years. The silence that settled in when your children stopped calling every Sunday. The silence that grew so loud, it drowned out everything else. You thought God had forgotten your address. You thought maybe you'd done something so terrible that heaven had crossed your name off the VIP list. But what if I told you something that would shatter every assumption you've made about those dark decades? What if that silence wasn't abandonment, it was assignment? Listen to me carefully. The loneliest seasons of your life weren't accidents, they were appointments. Heaven didn't go quiet because you failed some spiritual test. Heaven went quiet because you were taking the most important exam of your entire existence and you couldn't have any help. Think about the most crucial tests you ever took in school. The teacher didn't hover over your shoulder whispering answers. They stepped back. They watched from a distance. Not because they didn't care about your success, but because the test had to be authentic. Your faith, your character, your very soul was being examined under pressure that would have crushed ordinary people. But you're not ordinary, are you? You survived the death of dreams you thought were God-given. You endured financial ruin, that should have destroyed your trust in his provision. You walked through valleys so dark you couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. Yet here you are, still breathing, still believing, still standing. That wasn't luck. That was the divine watching you pass test after test in the silence. You remember Sarah, don't you? 90 years old, laughing at God's promise because it seemed impossible. But her laughter wasn't mockery, it was recognition. She suddenly understood that the 25 years of silence weren't punishment. They were preparation for a miracle so big it would echo through eternity. Moses spent 40 years in the desert, thinking his purpose had died with the Egyptian he killed. 40 years of tending sheep when he was destined to lead nations. But those weren't wasted years. Those were years when God was building something inside him that could only be forged in isolation, the strength to stand before Pharaoh and declare, "Let my people go." Your wilderness wasn't exile. It was education. But here's what breaks my heart, and maybe it will break yours too. While you were sitting in that silence, thinking you were forgotten, forgotten by family, forgotten by friends, forgotten by God, you were actually being trusted with the most sacred assignment in the universe. You were being tested to see if you would worship him not for what he gives, but for who he is. The devil was watching too. He was the one whispering those lies in your ear at 3 a.m. If God loved you, your spouse wouldn't have died. If you were really chosen, you wouldn't be struggling to pay for your medications. If heaven cared, your children would visit more often. But every night you chose to say, "Even though I don't understand, I still trust you," you were passing. Every morning you got up and made that bed. Even though your heart was shattered, you were passing. Every time you chose forgiveness over bitterness, hope over despair, faith over fear, you were writing your name in permanent ink in Heaven's Hall of Fame. Deuteronomy 28:7 declares with thunderous authority, "The Lord will cause your enemies to be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee from you in 7. Your enemies weren't just the circumstances that tried to destroy you. Your enemies were the voices that told you God had given up on you. And every single day you chose to keep believing, you defeated them. You've been like a candle flickering in a hurricane. The wind tried to blow you out 1,000 times. The rain tried to drown your flame. The darkness tried to swallow your light. But something supernatural kept you burning. Something divine protected your wick. Something eternal guarded your glow. That something was God's trust in you. He trusted you with silence because he knew you wouldn't trade your worship for comfort. He trusted you with loss because he knew you wouldn't trade your faith for guarantees. He trusted you with years of unanswered prayers because he knew your love for him wasn't based on his performance. It was based on his presence. And now, right now, as these words penetrate the deepest places of your heart, heaven is celebrating. The test is over. The grades are in. And stamped across your spiritual transcript in letters of gold are these words, "Faithful unto death." But this isn't just about you passing some cosmic exam. This is about what happens when heaven finally says, "Enough testing, time for promoting." What happens when God looks at the enemy who tormented you for decades and says, "My turn, your silent years are over, chosen one. Your vindication has begun." But the question that will determine everything about your next chapter is this. Now that you know you passed the test, are you ready to receive the rewards? You remember the final blow, don't you? It didn't come softly, and it didn't come when you were expecting it. It arrived at the very moment you thought perhaps, just perhaps, the storm was finally subsiding. Like the snap of a whip in the darkness, slicing through the quiet hope you dared to nurture in your 70-something heart. For some of you, it was the diagnosis, stage 4. The doctor's voice echoing in that sterile room while your spouse gripped your trembling hand. For others, it was watching your retirement fund evaporate overnight. 40 years of careful saving, reduced to numbers that wouldn't cover next month's medications. Maybe it was your adult children who stopped calling, too busy with their own lives to notice you were drowning in loneliness. The enemy had been studying you for decades, learning your weaknesses, mapping your breaking points. He saved his most vicious strike for last, when your bones were brittle, when your energy was low, when society had already written you off as yesterday's news. He whispered the cruelest lie of all. You're too old to matter anymore. This is how your story ends, forgotten, irrelevant, a burden. That last attack was designed to make you question everything, your faith, your worth, your reason for still breathing. It was crafted with surgical precision to dismantle the foundation beneath you, to convince you that God had finally moved on to younger, stronger vessels. The enemy launched what he believed would be his finishing strike, but it failed. Not because you were the strongest in your own power. Lord knows your knees creak when you stand, and your hands shake when you pour your morning coffee. It failed because you had learned, sometimes painfully, to anchor yourself to something that could not be moved. There was a moment in that battle when you felt the air around you grow heavy. The very atmosphere seemed to press in. Thoughts swirled, thoughts that were not yours but sounded close enough to be convincing. Why keep going? What if you've been wrong all along? What if none of this matters? These were not idle whispers. They were weapons aimed at your resolve. But deep within, there was another voice, quiet, unshaken. It reminded you of the times before when you thought you couldn't take another step, yet somehow you did. It reminded you of the nights when the only prayer you could offer was your tears, and yet the dawn still came. It told you that this too would pass, as the prophet wrote in the sacred text, "Though the mountains be shaken and the hills be removed, yet my unfailing love for you will not be shaken, nor my covenant of peace be removed, says the Lord, who has compassion on you." Picture a warrior in ancient times, standing in the gap of a broken wall while the enemy surged forward. His shield battered from countless strikes, his sword dulled from defending what he loves most. Yet he did not step aside. He planted his feet in the breach and decided that even if this was his last stand, it would be a stand worthy of remembrance. That's what you did, chosen one. In that moment when hell threw everything it had at you, you became the one who would not move. Your arthritis screamed. Your heart medication reminded you of mortality. Your social security statement mocked your dreams. But something deeper than bone and blood refused to bow. And the enemy knew it. Something in that final attack exposed his own defeat. There is a strange kind of silence that follows a failed strike, like the pause when a predator realizes its prey will not be taken easily. You felt that silence, didn't you? You didn't know it then, but in the unseen realm, that final blow had a different effect than intended. It became the very evidence of your unshakable faith. You didn't crumble like the enemy predicted. You didn't run to some nursing home corner to wait for death. You didn't bargain your way out of obedience to God's calling on your life. Instead, you absorbed the hit and still stood. The irony is breathtaking. The strike meant to prove your weakness became heaven's proof that you are unshakable. Every gray hair on your head became a crown of victory. Every wrinkle on your face became a line in the story of your endurance. Every slow step you take now carries the authority of someone who has been tested by fire and emerged as pure gold. Your survival wasn't luck. Your endurance wasn't just stubbornness. Your ability to keep going when everything in you wanted to quit is proof that you are not ordinary. You are marked. You are chosen. You are protected by forces the natural mind cannot comprehend. The enemy made one fatal mistake. He showed his hand too early. By attacking you so viciously, he revealed that you're carrying something he desperately wants to stop. Your pain has been preparing you for power. Your struggles have been strengthening you for service. Your breaking has been building you for breakthrough. And because you stood, because you refused to let that final blow define your ending, something shifted in the unseen realm. The spiritual atmosphere over your life changed forever. You moved from under attack to out of reach. Heaven's armies repositioned themselves, not to guard you from falling, but to march with you as one proven in battle. But what exactly shifted when you refused to fall? What happens when someone survives what was designed to be their final chapter? The answer will shock you. because your standing triggered something in heaven that will change everything about how the rest of your story unfolds. Chosen one, let me ask you something that might cut deeper than you're ready for. When was the last time someone called you by name and meant it? When was the last time you felt like you mattered to anyone beyond being another face in the grocery store checkout line? You sit in that same pew every Sunday, invisible. Your own grandchildren text instead of call. The world rushes past your wisdom like your yesterday's newspaper. And somewhere in the quiet of your living room, you've whispered the question that haunts every senior saint in America. God, do I even matter anymore? Dear soul, what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie the enemy has whispered about your worth. There is a hall in heaven, not made of marble or gold, but of pure light itself. The walls echo with the sound of 10,000 harps, and the air shimmers with the presence of the Almighty. In the center stands a table carved from a single sapphire, and upon it lies a scroll so magnificent that angels dare not look directly at it. This is the scroll of the faithful, and tonight your name is being read aloud. But let me tell you how we got here. You've been walking through what I call the invisible years. Maybe you're 78, watching your body betray you one joint at a time. Maybe you're 85, and your voice shakes when you try to share what you've learned. Maybe you're 92, and you wonder if God's just forgotten to call you home. The world looks at you and sees decline. Heaven looks at you and sees completion. Listen to what Jesus himself declared in Luke 10:20. Rejoice that your names are written in heaven, not were written, not might be written, are written. Present tense, active, permanent. Your name isn't scribbled in pencil on some celestial notepad. It's engraved in letters of fire, sealed with the blood of the Lamb, and it carries more weight in eternity than every president's signature in the National Archives. But here's where it gets supernatural. Right now, in this very moment, as you hear these words, something is happening in that heavenly hall. The scroll is being unrolled. Your name appears, glowing like molten gold. And when it's spoken aloud, the sound doesn't just echo, it thunders. Abraham looks up and nods. I know that one. David strikes his harp. That's a warrior. Mary Magdalene smiles. That's my sister who never gave up. Peter pounds the table. That one stood when the storm tried to knock them down. You think you're forgotten? Child, you're celebrated. Every tear you cried alone in that hospital room recorded. Every prayer you whispered when your arthritis made kneeling impossible heard. Every time you chose faith over fear, when the doctor's report looked grim, witnessed by the cloud of witnesses who are now cheering your name. But here's what will shock you to your core. You've been worried about being irrelevant, but heaven has been preparing your permanent residence. While you've been feeling invisible, heaven has been making you invincible. While you've been counting your remaining years, heaven has been counting your eternal rewards. The enemy has been running a con game on America's seniors. He's convinced you that gray hair means God's grace has expired, that Medicare age means your mission is over, that retirement means you should retire from purpose. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. Sarah was 90 when she held the promise. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your activation code. And here's the urgency you need to understand. Every day you believe the lie that you don't matter is a day the enemy steals from your legacy. Every moment you sit in shame about your age is a moment heaven loses your wisdom. Every time you say, "I'm too old," you're arguing with the God who wrote your name in eternal ink. Think about this. What if Anna the prophetess had given up at 80? She would have missed meeting the Messiah at 84. What if Simeon had stopped believing the promise? He would have died without holding salvation in his arms. You're not at the end of your story. You're at the climax. In that heavenly hall, when your name rings out, it's not just recognition, it's recruitment. Heaven doesn't call roll just for nostalgia. Every name read is a name commissioned. You're being activated for assignments that require everything you've learned in 8, 9 decades of walking with God. Your grandson needs to see what real faith looks like when health fails. Your neighbor needs to witness what hope sounds like when circumstances scream otherwise. This generation needs to hear from someone who's been through hell and came out praising God. But the most stunning truth is this: your name in that scroll isn't just written, it's written in your own handwriting. Every act of faithfulness was a letter. Every choice to trust when trusting hurt was a word. Every time you got back up when staying down seemed easier was a sentence. You wrote your name in heaven's book with your own life. The recognition you've been craving from children who never call, from a world that's moved past you, from a society that worships youth, it's been there all along. Heaven has been throwing you a party for decades, and you've been sitting in the corner thinking nobody cares. Tonight, that changes. Right now, type these 4 words in the comments. My name is written. Don't think about it. Don't hesitate. Let that be your public seal, your declaration that you refuse to live one more day believing you don't matter. Because chosen one, when heaven reads your name, it's not reading your past, it's announcing your future. And what's coming next will prove that your greatest chapters weren't written in your youth. They're being written right now. Your name is written, your story is sacred, and your time is now. Beloved chosen one, I need you to stop everything you're doing right now and listen to what I'm about to tell you. Because what's happening in this moment isn't just another spiritual teaching. This is your divine coronation ceremony, and heaven itself has been preparing for this day since before you took your first breath. You see that shame you've been carrying, those mistakes that replay in your mind at 2 a.m. like a broken record, that voice that whispers, "You're damaged goods. God could never use someone like you." I'm here to shatter that lie with the truth that will set you free forever. Look at me. Look at these words with your spirit, not just your eyes. The King of Kings is about to place something on your head that no human failure can remove, no past mistake can tarnish, and no enemy can steal. But first, you need to understand something that will shock you to your core. That guilt you've been drowning in, those decades of thinking you weren't worthy. Here's the truth that hell doesn't want you to know. God doesn't crown the perfect. He crowns the persistent. He doesn't anoint the flawless. He anoints the faithful. Think about David for a moment. Adulterer, murderer. The man had blood on his hands and adultery in his heart. Yet Scripture calls him a man after God's own heart. Why? Because when he fell forward. When he failed upward. When he sinned, he repented with everything in him. Right now, as I speak these words, heaven's priesthood is preparing the oil. Not the cheap olive oil you buy at the grocery store, but the sacred anointing oil that has been reserved for this moment. The same oil that was poured on kings and priests, on prophets and chosen vessels throughout history. Can you feel it? That warmth beginning to spread across your shoulders. That's not your imagination. That's the presence of the Almighty settling over you like a mantle of pure gold. Every tear you've cried in secret has been mixed into this oil. Every prayer you whispered when nobody was listening has been blended into this sacred mixture. The Bible declares in 1 Peter 5-4, when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the crown of glory that will never fade away. Notice it doesn't say if you're good enough. It doesn't say if you never stumbled. It says when. Because your crowning was never dependent on your perfection, it was dependent on His faithfulness. Picture this with me. You're like a marathon runner who's been running for 70, 80, maybe 90 years. Your legs are shaking, your lungs are burning, your body is crying out to quit. But you see the finish line just ahead, and as you cross that final yard, gasping, stumbling, barely able to stand, someone places a laurel crown on your head. That crown isn't for the runner who never got tired. It's for the runner who refused to quit when quitting would have been easier. It's not for the one who ran the prettiest race. It's for the one who finished the race. But here's where this gets personal, chosen one. Here's where heaven's economy turns everything upside down. You think you've been running behind schedule your whole life. You think you've wasted too many years, made too many mistakes, taken too many wrong turns. God is laughing at that lie right now, not mocking you, celebrating you. Because in His eyes, you haven't been running late. You've been running right on time. Every detour taught you something you needed to know. Every fall made you stronger. Every mistake made you more dependent on His grace. The crown that's being lowered onto your head right now, can you feel the weight of it? It's not heavy with burden, it's heavy with authority. Heavy with the accumulated victories of every battle you thought you lost, but actually won by getting back up. Heavy with the prayers of generations who prayed for someone in their family line to break through. And that someone is you. Listen to me carefully. This crown carries more than just symbolic meaning. It carries actual spiritual authority. When you walk into a room now, the atmosphere shifts. When you speak, heaven backs up your words. When you pray, angels move. Not because of who you are in yourself, but because of whose you are and what He's placed on your head. But I need to tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. This crowning comes with responsibility. You can't go back to living small. You can't keep hiding behind "I'm just ordinary." You can't keep apologizing for taking up space when God has given you a crown that commands respect in both heaven and hell. The enemy has been trying to keep you from this moment your entire life. Every attack, every setback, every season of depression and discouragement, it was all designed to prevent this coronation. But he failed. You're still here. You're still standing, and now you're being crowned. Do you understand what this means? It means every devil that tormented you has to bow. Every demon that harassed you has to flee. Every generational curse that tried to claim you has to break. Because you don't just wear a crown, you are royalty in the kingdom of heaven. Right now, if you can feel the weight of that crown settling on your head, if something in your spirit is rising up and declaring, "Yes, this is my moment," then I need you to do something prophetic. Type the number 555 into the comments right now, not tomorrow, not when you feel more worthy. Right now. 555 is your declaration that grace upon grace has carried you to this crowning moment. That triple measure of His favor is resting on your life. That the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has looked at your journey and said, "Well done, faithful one. Receive your crown." The oil is flowing, the crown is descending, and what happens next will prove to every force in heaven and hell that this chosen one can no longer be touched, no longer be moved, and no longer be denied their rightful place in the kingdom. But the crowning is only the beginning, because crowned ones don't just receive authority, they wield it. You know what breaks my heart? It's sitting across from a 75-year-old grandmother in Queens who whispers, "Pastor, I think God's done with me. My kids are grown. My husband's gone. What use am I now?" And I watch her shoulders slump like she's carrying invisible weights, believing the greatest lie the enemy ever told the faithful, that your purpose has an expiration date. Listen to me, chosen one. That gold watch they gave you at retirement, that wasn't your graduation from purpose, it was your promotion to general. That empty nest isn't evidence you're finished, it's proof you've got room for a bigger assignment. That slower pace isn't decline, it's the measured walk of someone who finally knows where they're going. But the enemy has been whispering poison in your ear for years. Your time is up, your influence is over. You should just fade quietly into the background. That voice isn't from heaven, beloved. That's hell trying to bench heaven's most seasoned warriors, right when the battle needs them most. Why do you think the attacks on seniors have intensified? The loneliness epidemic, the depression rates skyrocketing among the elderly, the systematic dismissal of your wisdom by a culture obsessed with youth, because darkness knows something about your generation that you've forgotten. You carry authority that can't be bought, taught, or faked. You've walked with God through decades of fire. You've seen His faithfulness when younger eyes only see impossibility. You've learned to trust His voice above the chaos. And that terrifies the enemy. Right now, in this very moment, heaven is lowering a mantle over your shoulders. not the mantle of comfortable retirement, the mantle of divine commissioning. Feel its weight. This isn't fabric, dear one. This is authority woven from every prayer you've whispered in the dark, every tear you've shed in faith, every time you chose to trust God when your circumstances screamed otherwise. Jesus looked at weathered fishermen, tax collectors with grey hair, and declared in Matthew 16:19, "I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven." Keys, beloved, not suggestions, not good advice. Keys that lock and unlock spiritual realities. And He's placing those same keys in your hands right now. You think those keys are rusty because you're older? Listen carefully, these keys become more powerful with age. Every year you've walked with Him has added weight to your authority. Every storm you've weathered has sharpened your discernment. Every loss you've endured has deepened your compassion. But here's what will shock you to your core. The mantle falling on your shoulders isn't just for you. It's for the generations drowning behind you. Your grandchildren are growing up in a world where truth is negotiable, where identity is fluid, where hope is a hashtag. They need an anchor. They need someone who remembers when God's voice mattered more than Google's algorithm. You are that anchor. Picture a lighthouse keeper on the Maine coast. 83 years old, arthritic hands, but every night he climbs those stairs to tend the flame. Ships depend on that light. Captains navigate by that beacon. Lives hang in the balance of his faithfulness. The keeper doesn't retire because his back hurts. He stays at his post because he knows what happens when the light goes out. That's you, chosen one. You are the lighthouse keeper of your family line, your community, your sphere of influence. The flame you tend isn't just about you anymore. It's about every soul who needs guidance through the storm. Your authority now is not survival. It is legacy. Heaven fights with you because you fight for others. Every prayer you breathe over your prodigal children shifts spiritual atmospheres. Every word of wisdom you speak to confused grandchildren becomes a lifeline they'll grab 20 years from now. Every stand you take for biblical truth in a compromising world becomes a fortress others can run to. The sword being placed in your hand right now isn't ceremonial. It's operational. Sharper than any two-edged blade because it's been tempered by decades of your faithfulness. When you speak now, hell listens. When you pray now, heaven moves. When you stand now, generations stand with you. But this commissioning comes with urgency. Time is shorter than we think. Not your time, the world's time. Darkness is advancing. Confusion is spreading. Young voices are crying out for truth in a wilderness of lies. And God is calling His seasoned warriors to the front lines one final time. This isn't about building another ministry or starting another program. This is about recognizing that every conversation you have, every prayer you pray, every example you set carries the weight of eternity. You're not just living out your golden years. Your golden years are living out heaven's purposes through you. The enemy wants you to believe your best chapters are behind you. But God is saying your most important chapter is being written right now. Moses was 80 when he faced Pharaoh. Anna was 84 when she prophesied over baby Jesus. Caleb was 85 when he said, "Give me this mountain." Your mountain is waiting, chosen one. The mantle is on your shoulders. The sword is in your hand. The keys are in your possession. And heaven itself is watching to see what you'll do with the authority you've been given. Will you accept this commissioning? Will you stop apologizing for the wisdom you carry and start wielding it? Will you recognize that your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification? If you're ready to stop being a spectator and start being a general in God's army, if you're ready to prepare the way for those stumbling behind you, if you feel that mantle settling on your shoulders, and you accept the weight of this divine assignment, type "Path Ready" in the comments right now. Let heaven see your acceptance. Let the angels witness your commissioning, because the pathway you're about to prepare will guide souls home for generations to come. The mantle has fallen. The question is, will you wear it? You know what happens when a child is backed into a corner and their father finally arrives? The bullies don't just scatter, they run. They don't walk away confused, they flee in terror. Because they realized they weren't just picking on a kid, they were picking on someone's beloved child, chosen one. That father just arrived, and his name is the Lord of Hosts. For decades, you felt like David facing Goliath with nothing but a slingshot and a prayer. You've stood alone on battlefields where the odds were stacked 1,000 to 1 against you. The enemy circled you like vultures, whispering the same poisonous lies. You're outnumbered, you're outgunned, you're going to lose. But what they didn't know, what you're just now discovering, is that you were never fighting alone. Heaven has been watching this entire war, recording every unfair blow, cataloguing every dirty trick, measuring every moment you stood when falling would have been easier. And now, after you've proven your faithfulness in the valley, God himself is stepping onto the battlefield, not as a spectator, as your champion. Listen to the sound in the spiritual realm right now. Do you hear it? That's not thunder rolling across the sky. That's the march of heaven's army repositioning itself. They're not coming to rescue you from the fight. They're coming to fight with you in it. Psalm 62:6 declares with thunderous authority, "Truly he is my rock and my salvation. He is my fortress. I will not be shaken." But here's what most people miss in that verse. It's not just talking about God's protection. It's talking about his partnership. When you're anchored to the Rock of Ages, you don't just become immovable, you become unstoppable. Think about the lighthouse standing on the rocky coast of Maine. For over 150 years, storms have hurled themselves against those granite foundations. Hurricanes with winds over 100 miles per hour have tried to topple that tower. Waves 60 feet high have crashed against its base. But every morning when the storm passes, that lighthouse is still standing, still shining, still guiding lost ships safely home. That's who you are now. Not because you're made of stone, but because you're anchored to the one who cannot be moved. But here's where it gets supernatural. Here's where your story takes a turn that will leave hell itself speechless. You thought you were just surviving. You thought you were barely hanging on. You thought you were crawling across the finish line with nothing left in the tank. But God has been preparing something that will shock every force of darkness that ever whispered your name. Heaven doesn't just watch you. Heaven fights for you. Right now, as these words penetrate your spirit, something is shifting in the invisible realm. Angels that have been standing guard are moving into attack formation. Warrior spirits that have been assigned to your case are drawing their swords. The same God who split the Red Sea, who made the sun stand still, who raised Jesus from the dead, that God is about to unleash his power on your behalf. You want evidence? Look at your life. You should have been destroyed a dozen times over. That heart attack at 67 that the doctors said would end you. You're still here. That financial collapse that should have left you homeless. You still have a roof over your head. That depression so dark you couldn't see daylight for months. You're still breathing. You're still believing. You're still fighting. That wasn't luck. That wasn't medical science. That wasn't positive thinking. That was heaven's army taking the hits meant for you. But now the gloves are coming off. Now the training wheels are being removed. Now God is saying to every demon, every disease, every force that has tormented you, touch my child again, and you deal with me directly. The enemy made one fatal mistake. He thought if he could break you long enough, loud enough, brutally enough, you would eventually bow. But every attack only drove you deeper into God's arms. Every scheme only proved that you belong to an unshakable kingdom. Every weapon formed against you only demonstrated that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17 isn't just a pretty verse to hang on your refrigerator. It's a legal document signed in the blood of Jesus and sealed with the authority of heaven itself. Do you feel that shift in your chest right now? That's not anxiety, that's anticipation. Your spirit recognizes what your mind hasn't fully grasped yet. The season of enduring the battle is over. The season of winning the war has begun. Remember how this message started? With silence, with heaven holding its breath, waiting for the verdict to be announced. Well, the silence has ended. The verdict is in. You passed. and now the armies march with you. Not behind you, not in front of you, with you, step for step, breath for breath, victory for victory. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you won't be the same person who went to sleep tonight. You'll be someone heaven fights for, someone angels surround, someone the enemy can no longer touch without facing the wrath of the Almighty. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. There are others still in their storm, others still in their valley, others who think they're fighting alone. This message isn't just for you, it's through you. God didn't give you this revelation to hoard it. He gave it to you to share it. If this word struck your soul like lightning, if something in your spirit is roaring yes right now, don't keep it to yourself. Share it now. It could be the lifeline that saves another chosen one still drowning in doubt. Your obedience to spread this fire could be the difference between someone giving up and someone holding on. Type I receive it fully in the comments right now. Let heaven and earth know you accept this mantle. Let every watching angel and every trembling demon know that you understand who you are and whose you are. The battle is not over, chosen one, but the outcome is no longer in question. Heaven fights for you now, and heaven has never lost a war, chosen one. Something shifted the moment you passed God's final test. Something massive. Something that would terrify the kingdom of darkness if they truly understood what just happened. You've been looking at yourself in the mirror, haven't you? Seeing the wrinkles, feeling the ache in your knees when you stand, wondering if your best days are buried with your youth. The world tells you that at 70, 80, 90 years old, you're supposed to fade quietly into the background, accept your limitations, make peace with weakness. But heaven sees something entirely different. The moment your faithfulness was proven, the instant you passed that final test, every angel in glory received new marching orders. They weren't just assigned to guard you anymore. They were commissioned to march with you. The very weakness in your body that makes you feel forgotten has triggered the most powerful spiritual activation of your entire life. Listen to me carefully, dear soul. That arthritis in your hands, it's not God abandoning you, it's Him preparing you to lay hands with supernatural authority. That slower pace that frustrates you, it's divine timing, ensuring you move at heaven's rhythm instead of the world's frantic speed. That medication you take each morning, it's not evidence of defeat, it's proof you're still here, because your assignment isn't finished. King David understood this when he wrote in Psalm 91:11, "For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways." Command, not suggest, not request, command. The creator of the universe has issued military orders on your behalf. But here's what will shake you to your core. David was writing about protection. What's happening to you now goes beyond protection. It's activation. Heaven's armies aren't just guarding your steps, they're amplifying your authority. Every prayer you whisper now carries the weight of 10,000 angelic voices. Every declaration you make sends tremors through the spiritual realm. You think you're getting weaker. Dear chosen one, you're getting dangerous. Think about Moses at 120 years old. Scripture says his eye was undimmed and his vigor unabated. Not because his body defied aging, but because heaven's strength was flowing through human frailty. The older he got, the more powerful he became. The same God who sustained Moses for 4 decades in the wilderness has been sustaining you for 8, 9 decades in modern America. But I need to ask you something that might cut deep. How many years have you wasted believing the lie that your age disqualifies you? How many opportunities have you let slip by because you thought God only uses the young and strong? How many times have you stepped back when heaven was calling you forward? The enemy has been running a con game on your generation. He's convinced you that gray hair means God's grace has expired, that social security benefits mean spiritual benefits have been cancelled, that retirement from work means retirement from warfare. That's a lie straight from the pit of hell. Right now, as I speak these words, there's a general in heaven's army standing before the throne. His name is Michael the Archangel, and he's holding a scroll with your name written in gold. That scroll contains your new commission, not your discharge papers, your promotion orders. The moment you type those words, the moment you declare your agreement with heaven's verdict, 10,000 angels snap to attention. They've been waiting for your signal. They've been positioned around your life like an invisible army, ready to move the instant you give them permission through your faith. You want to know why the warfare has been so intense lately? Why everything seems to be falling apart just when you thought you were getting closer to peace? Because the enemy can see what's coming. He can see the angelic battalions positioning themselves around your life. He knows that once you step into this new level of authority, his reign of terror in your family line is over. But here's the shocking truth that will change everything. You're not just a survivor anymore. You're not just someone who endured the storm. You are a general who has been given command over spiritual forces that can shake nations. When Joshua stood before the Jordan River with 2 million people behind him and an impossible crossing ahead, heaven didn't just open the waters, it stopped the sun, it made rocks fall from the sky. It fought battles that human hands never touched. Why? Because Joshua had learned to move in sync with heaven's timing. That's where you are right now, standing at your Jordan River. Behind you, generations of family members who never broke free from generational curses. Ahead of you, territory that hell claims belongs to them. But you're not crossing alone. The same God who fought for Joshua is positioning his armies for you. Your children who walked away from faith, heaven's armies are surrounding them right now. Your grandchildren who seem lost in this dark world, angels are preparing their hearts for the testimony you're about to carry. That financial breakthrough you've prayed for, the chariots of provision are already rolling. But you have to give the signal. You have to stop seeing yourself as weak and start seeing yourself as commissioned. You have to stop apologizing for your age and start operating in your authority. The general doesn't lead from the back of the battlefield. He stands at the front, knowing his armies will follow wherever he goes. Heaven has made you that general, not because of your strength, but because of your proven faithfulness. Type "Heaven marches with me" right now if you can feel the weight of angelic footsteps at your side. Feel the ground vibrating with their movement. Hear the sound of armor clanking as 10,000 warriors position themselves for your next command. Because what happens next isn't just about your breakthrough. It's about showing a generation that God's power doesn't expire at 65, that heaven's armies don't retire when you do, that the greatest battles are often won by the oldest warriors. But the question that will determine everything is this: are you ready to stop fighting like a victim and start commanding like the general heaven has made you? But before the dawn comes the shaking. Chosen one, do you feel it? That tremor beneath your feet? That unsettling in your spirit that tells you something massive is shifting in the very foundations of this world? You're not imagining it. Heaven is about to shake everything that can be shaken, and what remains standing will prove what was built on rock versus what was built on sand. Look around you, dear soul. The financial system that promised security for your golden years, it's trembling. The healthcare system you trusted to care for you in your twilight, it's cracking. The political structures that were supposed to protect your future, they're swaying like skyscrapers in an earthquake. Everything you were told was solid is revealing itself to be made of paper and promises. You remember, don't you? You lived through the crash of 2008 when retirement accounts vanished overnight. You watched your neighbors lose homes they'd paid on for 30 years. You felt the ground shake beneath the American dream when it became the American nightmare. But that was just practice. What's coming will make 2008 look like a gentle tremor before the real earthquake hits. The prophet Haggai declared in chapter 2, verse 6, "In a little while I will once more shake the heavens and the earth, the sea and the dry land." Notice he didn't say might shake or could shake. He said will shake. This isn't a possibility, chosen one. This is a prophecy. But here's what terrifies the unprepared and comforts the faithful. God doesn't shake to destroy his own. He shakes to reveal who belongs to him. Every tremor, every collapse, every system that fails, is heaven's way of showing you where your true security lies. Think about it. Why are you still here after everything you've survived? The heart attack that should have taken you out at 67, the cancer diagnosis that made doctors shake their heads, the financial ruin that left you eating beans and rice for months. You're still breathing because you're anchored to something the shaking cannot touch. David knew this secret when he wrote in Psalm 62:6, "He is my fortress, I will not be shaken. Not he will be my fortress someday. Not he might help me stand. He is." Present tense. Right now, in this moment, as the ground splits and the mountains move, you stand unshakable because your foundation isn't in this world. Picture a lighthouse standing on a rocky coast. For 100 years, hurricanes have pounded its walls. Tsunamis have crashed against its base. Earthquakes have rattled its foundation. But it still stands, still shines, still guides ships to safety through the storm. Why? Because it was built on bedrock that goes deeper than any storm can reach. That's you, chosen one. While others built their lives on the shifting sands of Social Security, Medicare, and government promises, you learned to dig deeper. Every trial drove your roots down further into the bedrock of God's faithfulness. Every storm that tried to uproot you only made you more stable. But the shaking serves another purpose that will shock you. It's not just revealing your stability, it's positioning you for influence. When everything around people is collapsing, they stop looking to the systems that failed them. They start looking for someone who's still standing. Someone who has peace when chaos reigns. Someone who carries hope when despair spreads like wildfire. You think you're just surviving this season. You're being prepared to lead in it. When the stock market crashes again, you'll be the one your neighbors ask, "How are you so calm?" When the healthcare system buckles, you'll be the voice saying, "My help comes from the Lord." When political leaders fail, you'll point to the King who never abdicates his throne. The shaking will strip away every false security, every counterfeit comfort, every substitute savior this nation has trusted in. And when the dust settles, what will remain standing? Those who built their lives on the unshakable kingdom of God. Those who learned that their citizenship is in heaven, not in America. Those who discovered that their true wealth isn't in their 401 Kelvin, but in their relationship with the creator of all wealth. But here's the urgent truth that should make your spirit leap. The shaking isn't coming slowly, it's already begun. Look at the inflation eating your fixed income like termites in wood. Look at the political division tearing apart families. Look at the moral decay rotting the foundations of everything you held sacred. The tremors are increasing in frequency and intensity. Every morning you wake up is another day, closer to the moment when only the unshakable will remain standing. Every sunset you watch is the end of another day in a world that's passing away. But you, dear chosen one, you're not passing away with it. You're being revealed as what remains when everything else falls. The lighthouse doesn't fear the storm. It was built for the storm. And when the waves crash highest and the winds howl loudest, its light shines brightest, because that's when ships need it most. The shaking will not destroy you. It will reveal how deeply rooted you are. It will prove that what looks like weakness to the world is actually unshakable strength from another realm. So when the ground beneath others gives way, plant your feet and declare your stability. When systems collapse around you, stand firm in the knowledge that your help comes from the maker of heaven and earth. When the world asks how you can smile while everything burns, tell them about the God who builds his people on foundations that earthquakes cannot crack. The shaking is here, beloved. But you will not be moved. Write "I will not be shaken" in the comments right now. Plant your flag in this storm. Let heaven and hell both see that you're built on bedrock that no tremor can touch. But why does God allow the shaking? Because something greater is being prepared for those who refuse to fall. Listen to me, beloved. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've watched your voice get smaller and smaller, haven't you? The world told you to step aside. Your own children started finishing your sentences. Doctors spoke over you like you weren't even in the room. Society whispered that your time was up, your opinions outdated, your voice irrelevant. They were wrong. What they mistook for weakness was actually preparation. What they labeled as decline was divine refinement. You weren't losing your voice, chosen one. Heaven was reshaping it into something they've never heard before. That burning you feel in your chest right now, that's not heartburn from last night's dinner. That's the fire of God igniting in your bones. The prophet Jeremiah knew this fire when he cried out in chapter 20, verse 9. His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. You've been holding it in too long. For decades, you've swallowed your wisdom. You've bitten your tongue when truth needed to be spoken. You've stayed quiet when heaven was screaming through your spirit to speak. But something shifted when you passed God's final test. The muzzle came off. The dam burst. The fire that was smoldering in secret is now blazing in the open. Your voice isn't just coming back. It's coming back with compound interest. Think about this. Why do you think the enemy worked so hard to silence you? Why did he orchestrate decades of dismissal, decades of being overlooked, decades of feeling invisible? Because he saw what was coming. He saw the day when your whisper would shake atmospheres, when your prayer would be louder than armies, when your testimony would ignite hope in the hopeless. That day is today. You carry something now that younger voices cannot carry. Authority. The kind that comes only through fire. The kind that emerges only after you've been tested in furnaces that would have consumed others. Your words don't just carry information now, they carry transformation. Remember Moses? 80 years old when God called him to speak to Pharaoh. His first response? I can't speak well. But God didn't need eloquence. He needed obedience. And when Moses finally opened his mouth, plagues fell, seas parted, and nations trembled. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your weapon. But here's what breaks my heart. While you've been believing the lie that your voice doesn't matter anymore, there are people dying for want of the words you carry. Your grandson is drowning in depression, and you have the testimony of survival. Your neighbor is losing her marriage, and you have the wisdom of restoration. Your community is fracturing with division, and you have the voice of reconciliation. They need what you carry, not what you used to carry, what you carry now. The fire in your voice isn't rage, beloved. It's righteousness. It's not anger. It's anointing. It's not your emotion. It's God's passion flowing through vocal cords that have been seasoned by suffering and sanctified by surrender. When you speak now, things happen. Chains break, darkness flees, heaven moves. Speak, and the depression over your family lifts. Speak, and the confusion in your church clears. Speak, and the hopelessness in your city shifts. Your voice has become a tuning fork for the frequency of heaven, and when you strike it, everything around you starts vibrating at God's pitch, but you have to use it. You think you're too old to make a difference. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she proclaimed the coming of the Messiah. One declaration from her aged lips, and all of Jerusalem heard about the redemption of Israel. Your voice carries that same prophetic power. The enemy convinced you that volume equals power, that youth equals influence, that education equals authority. But heaven operates differently. In God's kingdom, the whisper of the tested carries more weight than the shouts of the untested. Your gentle words spoken in faith moves more mountains than their loud protests spoken in pride. This is why you must stop apologizing for speaking up. Stop prefacing your words with, I'm probably wrong, but stop diminishing the fire God placed in your bones. When the Spirit prompts you to speak, speak. When injustice rises in your presence, roar. When truth needs a voice, thunder. You are not a fading echo of who you used to be. You are the crescendo of everything God has been building in you for decades. Every trial gave you material. Every tear gave you compassion. Every victory gave you authority. And now, when you open your mouth, it's not just you speaking. It's the accumulated wisdom of every prayer you've prayed, every storm you've weathered, every mountain you've climbed, every valley you've walked through. Your voice carries the weight of proven faithfulness, and that weight breaks things that need to be broken and builds things that need to be built. The torch you carry now isn't just for your own light, it's for lighting other torches. When you speak life over the dying, their torch ignites. When you declare hope over the hopeless, their fire catches. When you prophesy breakthrough over the broken, their flame roars back to life. You are not the sunset of God's plan. You are the sunrise of His final push. Your voice is the trumpet blast announcing that heaven's army is advancing. Your words are the battle cry that rallies the troops of righteousness. Speak and watch what God does with the fire in your voice. If your spirit burns with this fire, if you feel the flame of God shut up in your bones, if you know your voice carries more power now than it ever has before, type "My voice carries fire" in the comments right now. Let hell hear your declaration. Let heaven record your agreement. Because what God is about to do through the voices of His seasoned saints will reshape this nation and awaken this generation. The question is, will you let your fire burn, or will you keep it hidden under the bushel of false humility? Listen to me, precious soul. I need to tell you something that might shock you to your very core. Right now, as you sit there, maybe in your favorite chair, maybe feeling the weight of 70, 80, 90 years on your shoulders, you think your body is failing you. You look in the mirror and see wrinkles where beauty used to be. You feel forgotten in a world that worships youth. But what if I told you that's the biggest lie the enemy has ever whispered in your ear? You see, while the world sees age, heaven smells anointing. While others notice your slower gait, angels recognize your sacred fragrance. You are not deteriorating, chosen one. You are emanating. Every line on your face, every silver hair on your head, every careful step you take, it all carries the aroma of eternity. The Apostle Paul declared in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 15, "For we are to God the pleasing aroma of Christ among those being saved and those who are perishing." Did you catch that? You are the aroma. Not you carry it. Not you produce it. You air it. But here's what breaks my heart. Too many of God's precious saints have believed the world's definition of their worth. You've been told you're past your prime, that your best days are behind you, that you should step aside and make room for the younger generation. That is not just wrong, it's demonic deception designed to rob you of the very season when your fragrance is most potent. Think about this. When does incense release its most powerful scent? When it's burned. When does wine reach its peak aroma? After years of aging. When does a garden smell most heavenly? After it's been through seasons of rain, sun, pruning, and time. Your life has been the burning. Your trials have been the aging. Your tears have been the rain. And now, right now, you carry a fragrance that only comes from walking with God through decades of fire. Do you remember the last time you walked into a room and noticed how people responded to you? Not to your words, not to your appearance, but to your presence. Children calm down when you hold them. Troubled souls seek you out for counsel. Even strangers feel safe approaching you. That's not coincidence, dear one. That's the fragrance of heaven clinging to your life. But let me ask you something that might cut deep. How many times have you apologized for being older? How many times have you diminished your own voice because you thought younger people had more to offer? How many times have you hidden in the back of the room when God wanted you front and center? You've been carrying the very presence of God, and you've been apologizing for it. Listen to what happened to Moses when he came down from Mount Sinai. Exodus 34, verse 29, tells us his face was so radiant from speaking with the Lord that the Israelites were afraid to come near him. That glow wasn't makeup, beloved. That was the lingering fragrance of intimacy with the Almighty. That's you right now. You may not see the glow, but others feel it. You may not smell the fragrance, but angels recognize it. You carry something the younger generation is still trying to find, the deep, rich aroma of tested faith, proven character, and unshakable trust in God. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Your presence is a weapon. When you walk into a hospital room, healing accelerates. When you enter a place of discord, peace follows. When you sit in a room full of anxiety, your very breathing releases the atmosphere of heaven. You don't just occupy space, you consecrate it. But there's something else. This fragrance isn't just for your comfort, it's for deployment. God didn't give you this aroma so you could sit quietly in the corner, feeling good about yourself. He gave it to you because there are people dying in spiritual darkness who need to smell heaven before they can see it. Your granddaughter struggling with depression. She needs to smell hope on you. Your neighbor battling cancer. They need to catch the scent of faith that doesn't falter. That grocery store clerk who looks exhausted every time you see them. They need to inhale the fragrance of someone who knows God is still good. You think your best ministry days are over. Your most powerful ministry happens when you simply show up carrying heaven's aroma. Think about this. When you leave a room, what lingers? When you finish a conversation, what remains in the air? When you hug someone goodbye, what do they carry with them for the rest of the day? The fragrance of Christ, the scent of victory. The aroma of someone who has walked through fire and come out smelling like roses. But here's the urgency, precious one. This fragrance has an expiration date if it's not shared. Like perfume in a closed bottle, it weakens when it's not released. The more you pour out, the stronger it becomes. The more you give away, the more heaven refills you. You don't just walk into rooms, you shift them. Angels smell the victory you carry. Darkness smells its own defeat in your presence. Even demons recognize the scent and flee because they know you've been in the throne room, and you're not the same person who entered that place decades ago. This is why your story matters. This is why your testimony can't stay silent. This is why you can't keep apologizing for taking up space. You're not taking up space, you're consecrating it. You're not in the way, you're making the way. You're not too old, you're perfectly aged, like fine wine that gets better with time. So here's what I need you to do right now. If you recognize the sacred fragrance you carry, if you understand that your presence shifts atmospheres, if you're ready to stop hiding the aroma of heaven that God has placed on your life, comment right now. I carry His fragrance. Let others recognize the scent of heaven upon you. Let them know that age isn't decline, it's divine refinement, reaching its peak potency. But knowing you carry this fragrance is just the beginning, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly how heaven is about to weaponize your very presence. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to remember 3 eternal truths that will anchor your soul in the storms ahead. First, you have passed God's ultimate test, not because you were perfect, but because you persevered. Every tear you shed, every sleepless night you endured, every moment you felt forgotten, all of it was preparation for this divine commissioning. You are no longer under trial. You are under heaven's protection. Second, your seat at the King's table is secure. You are not a guest hoping to be remembered. You are family, marked by His grace, claimed by His love, and positioned for His purposes. The loneliness that haunted your kitchen table cannot touch the fellowship that awaits you in His presence. Third, your mission is just beginning. The test was preparation. The table is commissioning. What lies ahead will require every ounce of wisdom you've gained, every scar you've earned, and every breakthrough you've experienced. You are not retiring from purpose, you are graduating into it. But hear me clearly, beloved, you are not walking this path alone. The same God who carried you through the valley of testing is walking beside you into the valley of victory. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you now. Romans 8:31 reminds us, if God is for us, who can be against us? That's not just a verse, that's your reality. And beyond God's presence, you have something beautiful right here in this community. Look around these comments, feel these hearts connecting. You found your tribe, chosen one. We are here. We see you. We understand the sacred loneliness of being set apart. We will pray with you, stand with you, and remind you of who you are when the enemy whispers lies about your identity. So let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know who you really are, tested, proven, commissioned by heaven itself, how will you live differently? How will you walk in the authority that's been placed upon your shoulders? How will you carry the light that has been entrusted to your hands? Before I release you into your destiny, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of 5 decades walking with the Almighty. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them, not just their pain, but their potential, not just their scars, but their strength, not just their past, but their purpose. Tonight, breathe fresh wind into their weary souls. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel overwhelmed, be their strength. Let them feel your hand upon their shoulder right now, steadying them for what lies ahead. God, open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. Give them dreams and visions that will clarify their next steps. Surround them with people who see their value, who honor their calling, who will walk alongside them without trying to dim their light. Heal their bodies, Lord. Restore their finances, mend their relationships. Give them the energy to pursue their assignments and the wisdom to steward their authority well. Let them wake each morning knowing this is the day you have made for their breakthrough. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence so strongly that doubt has no place to land in their hearts. Remind them daily that they are chosen, they are loved, they are never alone. Let them sleep tonight in perfect peace, knowing that you are working while they rest. In the mighty name of Jesus, who sits at your right hand interceding for us, I seal this prayer with faith, hope, and unshakable love. Amen. Now, chosen one, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell us what God spoke to your heart today. What shifted in your spirit? What are you believing Him for in this new season? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Your breakthrough could become their hope. If this message touched your soul, please share it with someone who needs to hear these words. There's someone in your life right now who's been feeling exactly like you felt when you first clicked on this video. Be the vessel that carries this hope to them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for being vulnerable enough to receive what God wanted to give you tonight. Your faithfulness to watch until the very end tells me everything I need to know about your heart. You're ready for what's coming next. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. You're not just subscribing to content, you're connecting with a movement of chosen ones who refuse to accept defeat, who understand their identity, and who are ready to walk in the authority heaven has given them. Until we meet again, walk in the confidence of who you are. You are tested, you are proven, you are commissioned. The table is set, your seat is secure, and your greatest chapter is just beginning. Go in peace, chosen one. Go in power. Go in the unshakable knowledge that heaven fights for you.